The drums of destiny do not always sound like thunder. Sometimes they whisper. And those who ignore the whisper often hear the roar of regret. In the ancient kingdom of Akwanda, where golden grasslands stretched beyond the horizon and sacred forests guarded secrets older than memory, there lived a young man whose pride was greater than the tallest baobab tree. His name was Kofi. Strong, fearless, respected. But there was one warning he refused to hear. And that decision would lead him into a journey that nearly cost him everything. This is the story of Kofi, the young hunter who ignored the elders' warning and learned a lesson that would echo through generations. Kofi was the finest hunter in the village of Nsumba. At only 23 seasons old, he had already defeated wild boars, hunted leopards, and crossed dangerous rivers that many feared. The villagers admired him. Children followed him wherever he went. Young warriors wished to become like him. But fame had planted something dangerous in his heart. Pride. The oldest elder in the village was Baba Zuberi, a wise man whose silver beard reached his chest. For decades, he had guided kings, settled disputes, and interpreted signs from nature. People trusted his wisdom. There was also Amale, a kind-hearted healer, and Kofi's childhood friend. Unlike others, she was never impressed by Kofi's strength. She valued wisdom more than bravery. And finally, there was King Jabari, ruler of Akwanda, known for protecting the kingdom's traditions. None of them knew that a great storm was approaching. One evening, as the villagers gathered around a large fire, Baba Zuberi stood and raised his staff. Silence fell. "I have seen troubling signs," he announced. "The Sacred Forest of Moyo has awakened." The crowd exchanged nervous glances. The sacred forest was feared by everyone. Ancient stories claimed it was protected by spirits that tested the hearts of those who entered. Baba Zuberi continued, "A hidden treasure lies deep within the forest. But whoever seeks it during the season of red moons will face trials beyond imagination." Many villagers nodded respectfully, but Kofi laughed, a loud, confident laugh. "Old stories," he said. "There are no spirits, there are no curses, only fear." The crowd gasped. Baba Zuberi looked at him calmly. "Be careful, my son. Pride blinds the eyes faster than darkness." Kofi crossed his arms. "I fear nothing." The elder's eyes filled with sadness. "That is exactly why you should fear." Days later, rumors spread throughout the kingdom. Travelers spoke of a legendary treasure hidden in the sacred forest. It was said to contain enough gold to make a man richer than a king. Kofi's imagination burned with excitement. He dreamed of glory. He imagined villagers singing his name forever. Amale begged him not to go. "Kofi," she said softly, "not every battle is fought with strength." He smiled. "Then I will use courage. Courage without wisdom becomes recklessness." But Kofi had already made up his mind. At dawn, he packed his spear, a small bag of food, and began his journey. As he left the village, Baba Zuberi called out to him, "This is your last chance to turn back." Kofi didn't stop walking. The elder lowered his head. "The forest will teach what I could not." The Sacred Forest of Moyo was unlike any place Kofi had ever seen. The trees were enormous. Strange birds sang haunting melodies. The deeper he walked, the quieter the world became. Soon he reached a fork in the path. One path was wide and easy. The other was narrow and covered in thorns. A stone stood between them. Ancient symbols were carved into its surface. Kofi ignored the symbols and chose the easy road. Hours later, he found himself back where he started. Confused, he tried again. The same thing happened, again and again. Only after wasting an entire day did he realize his mistake. Reluctantly, he took the difficult path. The lesson was clear. Easy roads do not always lead forward. For days, Kofi traveled deeper into the forest. His food ran out, his feet became swollen. The confident hunter slowly became exhausted. One night, a violent storm struck. Rain poured from the sky, lightning split giant trees. Kofi sought shelter beneath a cave. Inside, he discovered strange paintings on the walls. The paintings showed a warrior standing before 3 tests. The test of fear, the test of compassion, the test of humility. At the bottom was a warning: the treasure belongs only to the worthy. Kofi scoffed. I came for gold, not riddles. Yet the words stayed in his mind. The next morning, the first test arrived. As he crossed a narrow bridge, he heard terrifying growls. Huge shadows moved beneath him. His heart raced. For the first time in years, fear gripped him. He nearly turned back, but after gathering courage, he continued. Moments later, he realized the monsters were only shadows created by sunlight and moving branches. The first test had not been about danger. It had been about fear itself. Days later, Kofi encountered the second test. He found an injured old traveler lying beside the path. The man was weak and unable to walk. Kofi hesitated. Helping him would delay the journey. The treasure was close. The old Kofi would have walked away. But something had changed. He remembered Amali's words. Not every battle is fought with strength. So he carried the traveler for 2 days until they reached safety. The grateful stranger smiled. You have passed the second test. Before Kofi could respond, the man disappeared, as if he had never existed. Finally, Kofi reached the heart of the forest. There, hidden beneath towering baobab trees, stood an ancient stone temple. Inside rested a magnificent golden chest. His eyes widened. The treasure was real. He rushed forward, but as he touched the chest, the temple trembled. A deep voice echoed through the chamber. You seek wealth, but what do you truly possess? Suddenly, visions appeared around him. He saw himself mocking Baba Zuberi, ignoring Amale, boasting before villagers, believing he was greater than everyone else. Then came another vision, his village suffering from drought, children hungry, families struggling, while he dreamed only of personal glory. Kofi fell to his knees. For the first time, he understood. His greatest enemy had never been the forest. It had been his own pride. Tears filled his eyes. I'm sorry, he whispered. The temple grew silent. Then the chest slowly opened. Inside was no gold, no jewels, no riches, only a small wooden staff, the same type carried by Baba Zuberi. Confused, Kofi picked it up. A voice spoke once more. The greatest treasure is wisdom. Wealth can be stolen. Wisdom guides generations. At that moment, everything changed. Kofi returned to Nsumba many weeks later. The villagers barely recognized him. The arrogant hunter was gone. In his place stood a humble man. He walked directly to Baba Zuberi and knelt before him. Forgive me, the elder smiled. There is nothing to forgive. You were right. No, said Baba Zuberi gently. The forest was right. Kofi spent the following years serving his community. He helped farmers improve their harvests. He taught young hunters discipline. He shared every lesson he had learned. When drought eventually struck the kingdom, Kofi organized wells and food supplies. Because of his leadership, many lives were saved. The villagers no longer admired him for his strength. They admired him for his wisdom. Years later, when Baba Zuberi passed away, King Jabari appointed Kofi as the kingdom's chief advisor. The same young man who once laughed at wisdom had become its greatest guardian. As the years passed, Kofi's story became a legend, told around fires throughout Akwanda. Parents shared it with their children. Elders repeated it during village gatherings. And every time the story was told, people remembered one important truth. The loudest voice is not always the wisest. Sometimes the quiet advice of an elder can save a life. Kofi never found the gold he expected. He found something far more valuable. The ability to see beyond himself, the courage to change, and the wisdom to listen. Because true greatness is not measured by how powerful you become. It is measured by how much you learn, how much you grow, and how many people you help along the way. Never allow pride to silence wisdom. The advice you ignore today may be the lesson you desperately need tomorrow. Strength can open doors, but wisdom shows you which door to enter. Those who listen, learn, and remain humble will always travel farther than those who rely only on their own confidence.